Living Local is presented by Amy Goss with Guild Mortgage. Amy is a proud Marine veteran serving Jacksonville and the surrounding communities with VA, FHA, USDA, and conventional home loans. She specializes in helping military families, first-time buyers, and everyone in between achieve the American dream of homeownership. Welcome to the very first episode of Living Local, Authentic Voices, Conversations that Matter. I'm your host, Steve Goodson, and the Main Cave Media Network is proud to launch a show focused on the people shaping the future of Onslow County. From Jacksonville to Swansboro, from Richlands to Holly Regis and East Ferry, and everywhere in between, we're sitting down with community leaders, business owners, nonprofit directors, educators, and elected officials who are creating real change in our community. And we're starting with something important. With the March 3rd Republican primary for Onslow County Commissioner approaching, our first episode features one-on-one conversations with candidates seeking a seat on the Board of Commissioners. The top three will advance to face Democratic candidates in November. We'll be discussing the issues that matter most to you, from growth and development to education funding, from infrastructure to public safety, from economic development to our partnership with Camp Lejeune, and so much more. No sound bites, no spin, just authentic conversations about the issues that matter the most. This is Living Local. Let's get going. Joining me today is current county commissioner and board chairman, Tim Foster. Tim, welcome to Living Local. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me.
Absolutely.
So Onslow County is growing, evolving, and facing some real decisions about its future. And the people who serve on the board of commissioners will have a direct hand in shaping that future. So let's jump right in and let the voters get to know you a little better. So Tim, just tell everybody more about you and why you're running for county commissioner.
I appreciate it, Steve. Appreciate the opportunity to have this interview and you doing this, getting it out to the people
Yes,
to be informed. It's a great opportunity. As you stated, Tim Foster. Who am I? Born and raised here in Onslow County, day one, close to 57 years now. I love this community. Been married to my wife, Tasha, for 35 years. And we got two boys, Cameron, our oldest, who's full-time with the National Guard. He's married to Shelby. Cameron, his wife, works for the school system.
Okay.
Does a great job there. And they're the parents to our one and only first granddaughter,
right.
Adeline, who's 6 months old now.
Congratulations for that.
That's great. Nothing much better. And then Peyton works with Parks and Rec. He's out there doing his thing, and proud of him. And that's part of the reason you do what you do and get involved in what you get involved in is this is our community, and we want it to be here for our kids and our grandkids and beyond. And that's me. I care deeply about the community. It's my community. I've served as an educator. I've served as a coach, teacher, school administrator, and county commissioner. And now my third time as the chairman of the county commission. And I've spent my life working with families. I've spent my life working with students, local businesses across this county, and just working to ensure that we have a community that is what it's always been to people like us. It's great. It's served us well, and let's get back in it and serve that. I think you mentioned priorities or things that we are looking forward to. Well, education has always been a priority.
Yep.
We want to make sure that the educational opportunities are fantastic for the kids here from kindergarten right on through. If they choose to go to our local community college here at Coastal, are those opportunities. When people want to look at investing in communities, people want to come to a community or move into a community, one of the first things they're going to look at is education. We want to ensure that that is good. We invest quite a bit of money into education. Part of 36% or 36.1% of our total revenue goes to Onslow County schools, and then we have a portion that goes over to Coastal. So that's just as our belief in our investment in education and our youth. Public safety is always a priority. As we grow, and we have been growing, the requirements in public safety is going to grow. So we want to make sure that we are funding the sheriff's office adequately to meet their needs, that meets the needs of our citizens, and then our local volunteer fire departments. We want to make sure that we've got a funding formula that meets their needs, and we're really working on that now to make it sustainable and long term, where they don't have to worry about if they're going to get something or what they're going to get or how much it's going to be set, and they can prioritize what they need. And we really need to do some work in our EMS system. Decrease the response time. Part of that is we're looking at getting EMS stations throughout the county, and really get funding into that, and really find a way to not only recruit people to Onslow County, but a means to retain people in Onslow County. And I think one of the biggest things that we have to look at is the growth, and controlling growth as much as we can. We can't stop growth, but at the same time, we have to find the means to control it and do it in a manner that is conducive. Be smart about it. Absolutely, you got to be smart about it. That's just the bottom line. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you talked about your priorities. So let's move right in, and you talked about budgets and allocations. Growing up, born and raised here, just like me, man, never would I thought over 200,000 people in Onslow County.
Gosh.
I mean, you remember the days when Western Boulevard was a dirt road, and one of the things that happened in during the 26th year as we're coming, property revaluations, 37% increase. Budget, the fiscal year budget this year is from July 1 through the end of June, $389 million. You mentioned education funding, 36%, and public safety, 26 some odd percent. So how do you balance growth with quality of life, and are the budget allocations that I mentioned, are they right for the taxpayers?
That's a great question. Is that right for the taxpayers? I think you hit it. Is balancing growth and quality of life is absolutely planning ahead.
Yeah,
you've got to plan, and we've developed a strategic plan that's a part of that planning ahead. And with that is, we don't have anything to do with roads, but we can talk to DOT about the needs in the county. And a couple of us sit on one of the planning committees where we offer our thoughts on it and share needs, and then they prioritize across the state, not just Onslow County, but we compete with everybody throughout the state. And then the planning with that goes back to what we talked about, the schools. We're responsible for building the schools. We don't get to say no when there's a need.
And that's separate.
Yes,
that's not included, correct?
That's right.
With that 35, 36.
That is separate. Okay. That is separate.
Yeah.
I mean, elementary school now will cost you $60 million plus. Gosh. A middle school is going to cost you $80 million, and a high school is probably going to cost you $100 million. Now you do have private schools and other places of that nature that can build them much cheaper, but they don't have to build according to the standards that is set by DPI. And then it comes back to the public safety we talked about, funding that, making sure that that's prioritized and appropriate. And these things we mentioned, the schools, the public safety, and health and human services, those three things are mandated by the state. And that makes up almost 81, 82% of our budget.
Wow.
And what's left from that is what we're able to use and go to Parks and Rec. And things that are not outlined by them. But that is exactly right. I mean, when you talk about those numbers, it's unreal. But those are appropriate priorities for the community. Yeah. But you're constantly having to evaluate them. Yeah. You're constantly having to look at them and make sure we're doing it efficiently and doing it the more bang for the buck and the most economical for the citizens, because it's taxpayer dollars that we're investing.
That's right.
You've got to understand that and invest wisely and protect the services that families rely on. That's the thing, is we have lots of services, and the only way to do it is through the taxpayers' dollars. And growth, when you come to growth, you know, everybody has to pay their fair share when you think about that, with the development standards, our infrastructure coordination. We don't want the current residents having to foot the bill of new development.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? And there's some things that may come about in that to make that happen. But it's a job.
It's a moving target,
job.
right?
I mean, when we were growing up, 100,000 people if we're lucky in
Yeah.
Onslow County.
Yeah.
And now you're right. And projected in 30 years or 2040 maybe, I can't remember exactly that year, 270,000 people.
Yeah. I might be retired and move somewhere else.
That's the, whew, it's unreal.
So
Unreal.
let's shift gears and talk about economic. You mentioned a little bit economic development, and then you mentioned developing and housing. First with economic development, I want to talk kind of the first kind of is just statement wise, non-traditional. When people think of economic development, people don't think a lot about tourism, but tourism is an economic development engine. $415 million in 2024 brought into the county through economic development, through tourism. And then, of course, our economic engine that drives our community, Camp Lejeune. So what's strategy, man, for economic development and I guess diversification, and maybe specifically maybe supporting small businesses?
Right. Well, that's the tough part here, because tourism and the military installation are the big ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they're automatic and
they have been
forever,
right?
forever.
Yeah.
And that's only a 12-mile stretch of beach.
Yeah.
That's down there. And I think a lot of that comes from military families come to Jacksonville, North Carolina to see their sons or daughters, visit with them when they're stationed here, or see them graduate from one of the schools, or see them promoted when they get here. But then when they get here, they're filled up in all the hotels, but then they discover something. And that's that 12-mile stretch of beach.
You're
and
exactly
they get
right.
there and they go, man, it's not built up. It's not a Myrtle Beach. It's not
commercialized.
It's not commercialized. Yeah. And they fall in love with it. We can get a beach house, and the only thing we need to do is bring the family here, enjoy the beach, enjoy cooking out, enjoy sitting on the back deck. So they spend those few days here with their family, and then they see the realtor and they schedule next summer.
That's right.
And those are two, because here in Onslow County, 15th and the 30th, just about everybody's getting paid.
Yeah.
So we're insulated a lot from some of that economic downturn. But I think too, we have to really look at how do we want to support our small businesses and our local entrepreneurs. And that's where we work with, our economic development, who does a lot of trying to get industry or industry business into Onslow County. But we really need to start focusing on our local businesses. How can we maintain them? A lot of things that we can do to bring something beyond the small local business, but to support the local business, is expanding our skills trades and to help build that workforce here that ensures that we support the local folks. Is our local people are very willing to be house the interns.
Yeah.
To teach our new electricians, our new carpenters. So as we support the local businesses with that, we also start letting the other industries see what we're doing, and that in itself becomes a recruiting tool. And we're able to provide stable, well-paying jobs. And what happens? We become a community of 215,000 people, because we want to work hard to strengthen those partnerships between the schools, our community colleges, the local employers, and really build a massive core of skilled labor, skilled workforce. And that doesn't even mention, Steve, those that are retiring or getting out of the military.
Yeah.
They are instant folks that are qualified for jobs.
Yep.
And we've got to continue to build those partnerships and really invest here locally to keep them here. That will then attract other businesses beyond our local businesses.
So let's talk a little about that. The military, the exiting military, the folks that come here for vacation, then fall in love with this place and decide, hey, I'd rather live here than fill in the blank. Housing,
Ah,
affordable housing, and you talked a little bit about developers. What role, and to me, it's as much affordable housing as housing
how's-
availability.
right, absolutely.
So talk a little bit about what the commissioner's role might be, what you guys can do as county commissioners to help address the housing issue, affordable housing.
Affordable housing. That's probably one of the toughest things I believe going on right now is the market, as you stated earlier, the values have jumped to
Yeah.
about 37% up more than what they were just 4 years ago. And that is in itself a part of the housing shortage.
And
You know,
and if you're going to go to sell your house, that's awesome that property values
yes,
have jumped like that. Now, if you're going to go buy a house,
that's a problem.
that's the problem, right? That's right.
That's
I spoke with Royce Bennett earlier, and he's a real estate
he's a
agent,
real estate agent.
and
He's
he
really got his thumb on that stuff.
boils down to supply and demand.
That's what it is. It comes down to purely supply and demand, and that itself is going to come back to we got to figure out how we can encourage some of this mixed housing options
Yeah.
to get the most out of some of the property that we have, but at the same time we got to maintain the rural characteristics of Onslow
Yeah.
County, and a lot of that is we're going to have some efforts to move more building into the municipalities, and they may not want to see that.
Yeah.
But I feel sure they do. They want to build their tax base. But instead of urban sprawl, let's continue the urbanization of our urban areas
Yeah.
and maintain the rural tranquility of who we are here in Onslow County. Does that impact housing and affordability? The more housing that grows into the city of Jacksonville is going to draw down the price. And all the amenities are close to them.
Yeah.
So the folks that are having trouble with transportation, that housing will be here in an effort. It'll start reducing the prices of the homes and stuff. But it's not the job of local government to get into the housing market.
You guys don't want to be
We don't want to be the landlords.
You don't
Yep.
be landlords, and that's a tough one because you're creating you're creating economic development opportunities, and that's for the citizens that live here. But at the same time, inevitably, economic development opportunities are going to bring folks to our community.
Right.
The economic engine every year it seems like every year it seems to be expanding, or every 2 or 3 years, and more military families are coming to the area, and they all can't stay on base,
Right.
so they have to have options. So it's a moving target, which puts another pressure on infrastructure.
Yes.
So you mentioned a little bit about roads. Talk about infrastructure and infrastructure needs. What's most critical?
Right
If there
now,
is something most critical.
I think our roads and our water and sewer are probably the top ones. Is a lot of building and developments are taking place on 2-lane roads.
Yeah.
Blue Creek Road's a perfect example. The amount of traffic that's there and the amount of traffic that's coming. It's not built for that. Gum Branch Road, it's not built for that. But while that's taking place, Piney Green wasn't built for it either. And it took a long time to get Piney Green to four lanes. You know better than anybody.
Better than anybody, man.
And the bypass around Jacksonville, I've read what I believe it was accurate that the studies showed that we needed a bypass in the 1960s.
Yeah.
And for some folks listening and thinking 1960s, that was a long time ago. You and I are thinking it was not really that long
No.
ago. But that's where the DOT is not a proactive organization.
Yeah.
It is a reactive organization. And having been in the utility business, you don't build for what might be.
No.
You build for what's there, not what might come. Because last thing you want to do is invest, $20 million in infrastructure, and then what you thought was coming doesn't show up.
Yeah.
That's usually a ticket to another profession out there. So as we build this infrastructure, ONWASA is having to find where they can treat millions of gallons of wastewater a day, and that's becoming an issue for them in the Stump Sound area. But that has to be a part of what we do. How can they, and they work as a utility outside of us, but how can we work with them and pushing, I hate to say use the word pushing, but moving housing into certain areas to make it as affordable as possible, because you know Jacksonville, Onslow County, the municipalities that are here, these places, it, it's not going to stop. I drove in Sneed's Ferry a few weeks ago and made a left turn into an area, and I remember that area growing up. There was nothing,
Yeah.
and I bet there was 400 pipes coming out of the ground of homes that are going up.
Yeah. And
Where's that going to go?
yeah, and the thing about it is growth is great. It's fantastic. Provides opportunities for the citizens that live here. A lot of the things that we have on Western Boulevard Extension today came because when the city did some stuff, if I recall correctly, and was able to count the base population
Right.
in towards the city population, and then all of a sudden, a lot of your chain, whether you agree with it or not, a lot of the chain restaurants and a lot of the bigger box stores, they solely look at numbers, and hey, this town's grown, let's put a box store there. Growth is great, but from a utility perspective, you mentioned on WASA, and I'm speaking from experience from the electric utility perspective, growth is expensive,
Yes.
and it comes with cost, and a lot of those costs you're not able to recoup. You don't see that investment the first couple of years. It's not till several years down the road that all of a sudden you start seeing you upgraded utility lines or you upgraded water and sewer lines. So it takes time for growth.
Right.
And
It is. The growth of the infrastructure is always behind the growth of the community.
yeah,
And you don't build the emergency response coverage until the coverage is needed.
yeah,
Um, and I'd love for us to become more proactive in that area, the emergency response area. Of let's I'd much rather have more and not need it than less and need it when it comes to that.
yeah.
So that's one of the big efforts of this growth, is that emergency response coverage from support those volunteer firefighters to EMS.
Well, let's talk about that. I'll shift, move around my questions a little bit since you brought about the emergency response. County provides funding for 20 volunteer fire departments,
Mhm.
and you guys have gone a long way. You've actually allocated dedicated property tax revenues for fire service.
Yes.
Is that funding model, one, is it sustainable? Is it adequate? Or do you see a need to change how the county supports the fire protection and or emergency
Right.
services?
What we've done the last few years is we've dedicated 3 cents of the property tax to go to the volunteers. That's not enough. We need more.
Yeah.
As we're moving forward right now, that number will jump maybe to a minimum of 5 cents.
Okay.
But instead of just putting it in the budget as we're going to give fire service 5 cents or fire service 4 cents or 6 cents, let's go ahead and do what we've done with the school system and coastal. Let's create a funding formula that is long-term and sustainable.
Yeah.
And that's going to take our volunteer firefighters, those fire chiefs, and our finance officers and some of the commissioners and different folks to really look at how do we develop this formula and how can it make sure it's sustainable.
You guys doing a deep dive and an analysis
That's it.
of it and
Service calls
figuring
here.
out why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Data driven. And then when we present that budget with their input and the county input, and we start prioritizing, or they start prioritizing across the county, because they all help each other.
Yeah.
They're all a part of taking care of us. And I think that new formula is coming, and that'll go into potentially. There's no potential. That formula and the funding will go into the contract that's going to be coming up again by the end of June. This one ends, and we want a new one in place and get that input and get that funding structure for them to ensure that we're meeting those needs.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's great. So let's shift. Fire service, emergency service. That's citizen wide, right? I think everyone agrees. Hey, we need that, and I don't think a retiree with 0 kids or someone living here with 3 kids going to school would debate fire service and, and or it means or emergency services. Let's talk about maybe an allocation that maybe is a little more debatable: park and rec,
Oh, yes.
and I don't want to limit it to park and rec, just quality of life, right?
Yes.
So you
absolutely.
guys budgeted in the 26 budget some pretty comprehensive funding for some park improvements and an indoor recreation facility. And I was talking to, I think it was Royce previously. I don't ever remember Onslow County having an indoor facility growing up. The first park I ever remember is Onslow Pines.
That's exactly right.
I mean, that's the one I remember. But but some potential budgeted numbers for indoor recreation facility. So beyond the basic services and beyond recreation, let's talk cultural, any sort of quality life amenities. Thoughts on those particular amenities that make the quality of life here better. And when someone comes here saying, "Hey, I want to stay here,"
That's right.
so
That's right.
so talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Families choose communities based on quality of life. The indoor facility was at Onslow Pines Park.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in that room, maybe a 40 by 40 room or a 20 by 40 room, and we did all of our activities in there, and that's just not the answer. So we've got to modernize those parks, modernize our athletic facilities, and we need an indoor recreation facility. Right now, our indoor recreation facility are mostly the middle schools across the county.
I was going to say, fortunately, you guys seem to have had a great partnership, obviously, with the county schools. And anytime you played, I didn't grow up in the city, but anytime I played county basketball or whatever, I was going to fill in the blank gym.
That's exactly right.
And it was a middle school, or maybe sometimes maybe a high school gym. But that's just become so hard to do now.
Right. Absolutely.
With activities,
so much going on with the
going on.
schools.
Yeah.
And then that's something that you talked about, is that we're really looking at and focusing on getting an indoor athletic facility that's adequate. And you're not going to be able to not build it in you've got to build it in a centralized location, because we obviously can't afford to put one in all 7 districts.
Yeah.
One day we may be able to do something along those lines, but we envision that indoor facility with lots of amenities, to the point that it can also support schools. If we're going to build it, let's go ahead and build it large enough that we can hold a graduation in there, that the schools can rotate in and out and do it together. But some of the things that people love, I wouldn't have loved it 30 years ago, but I do now. Walking trails. Walking trails that are out there, and more of that outdoor recreation, the outdoor pickleball courts. I mean, there's disc golf. There's just so many things that we can incorporate into Parks and Rec and get people out there and involved. One thing I never knew or realized would grow the way it has is you go to the Big Branch, the bike park out at Burton Park. Man, that's bringing people from all over the state and the country to ride. I never thought Onslow County would be home to a mountain biking trail. But when you get down near the water, there's a lot of hills and turns. And
you don't see them from the road.
You don't see them from the road, and we've run the woods long enough in Onslow County that we know where those are. But they become cultural and gathering places.
Yeah.
That is the big thing, and that's the reason we also are rebuild or renovating the senior center, and it has a new name coming to it, but it's something for people to be out of the home and doing. And then we really got to look at how can we impact things culturally. We could, somebody could build an 8,000 seat or 6,000 seat venue. Well, 6 or 8,000 seats, you're going to entertain the people that are already here.
Yep.
So you'd have to go something that's going to be 12, 14,000 seats maybe. And now you're going to get those that are here. Then you're going to get some more that are going to come in here and spend money locally and stay in our hotels and stuff. But we've definitely we got to take care of what we have that is existing.
Yeah.
Some of our existing needs to go away and be replaced with new. So the plans are really to invest in Parks and Rec in the coming years, in that strategic plan and that 4 or 5 year plan of building a quality Parks and Recreation division in Onslow County.
That's awesome. So you mentioned schools, and we talked about using facilities. Let's talk about education, and let's talk about it, the investment, 36% of the revenue to from the Board of Education. That's just to fund the schools annually, not build schools and
That's
stuff
right.
like that. So, do you think the formula is on track at 35%? Understanding that when you give that 35%, I mean, I talked about it with another candidate. You lose control over it
Right.
because you're giving it to another elected board.
That's right.
But do you think that the 35% is adequate? And if so, thoughts about how you can help guide better educational opportunities and outcomes
Right.
for our students, which you obviously can speak to this from your many years of service. So, first, allocation appropriate, and then how can we help?
I think allocation at this point is appropriate, and because it's based on what that revenue is yearly. So 1 year, and it's always the 26-27 school year is going to be based on the previous year. So they will know that number before those final tax revenue bills are in. And right now, they're very happy with the funding formula. We're very happy with the funding formula because if revenue goes up, their share increases, our share increases. So it really benefits everybody, and it's such a sustainable formula that it's going to be funded because it's automatic. It's going to be funded, and they are doing a good job. I mean, that's what they are elected to do. We are required by law to fund the schools, and we hand that money over, and then the Board of Education and their superintendent and their leadership, they have the data, they have the information that they study. That's what they do. You don't want me going and sitting on a board that's going to determine the funding of anything militarily. We want the men and women that do that to determine that at the State Department when it comes to defense spending. And I feel the same way with the Board of Education. The people elected them to be the stewards of the money that we give them, in addition to the money that the state gives them, in addition to the money that the federal government gives them. And you really can see what they do because there's a lot of teaching positions that the state doesn't fund. They don't fund your arts. That money that we're sending them funds the arts. Your coaches that are coaching your kids and spending all those hours out there, that money does not come from the state. That money comes from the local funds. So I think they are in the position to make those determinations. I think they are the ones that were elected to do it. They are the experts in that field. However, I do see where we need to be a part of some of the decision, not the decision making, but maybe some of the conversations with some
just
input.
sit down at the
Just
table.
sit down at the table. And we've done that a few times over the last several years. The relationship here in Onslow County with the Board of Education, the Board of Commissioners is very good. We've had some joint meetings and discussed how we can do things. We've talked about how we can work with them to acquire land for building new schools. The work that helped fund the Regional Skills Center, the work of going in with Coastal and the early college is that the work is being done to get our kids into this workforce or into the trades that comes back to the county, and building those partnerships as the county government is part of helping build the partnerships with the business community in the schools. And I think that is imperative. And the money that we've given them helps with the teacher supplement. It's so important. You've got to be able to recruit them, and then you've got to be able to retain them. And that's difficult, not just in Onslow County, but in education in North Carolina altogether. Is recruiting and retaining. And we see the importance, and I think our funding formula really speaks to the belief we have in supporting public education.
So let's move to the last little section. We're going to talk about this is something that you can speak with because you have been a commissioner, for 8 years now. You guys have a tough job, man. Tough job. You got to balance 6 incorporated towns.
Yes.
You got some unincorporated areas like Sneads Ferry, Hubert. how do you balance, and you serving as the chairman, fellow commissioners? How do you work with fellow commissioners who you would love to say you guys always see eye to eye on things, but that's not going to happen.
That's not. That's
Different priorities.
absolutely.
Talk about your philosophy as it goes to that.
You know, obviously there's 7 of us, and 7 people making decisions are not always going to agree. And but we've really starting to work harder on listening to each other, and have Onslow County in mind, and looking at it from that perspective. We got to start at that 35,000 foot level,
Yeah.
and look at the county as a whole. And then as we come in and zero in, we know that we have Stump Sound, the Sneads Ferry area, that is just growing tremendously. And the infrastructure down there is becoming tapped out. And then you got the Hubert area, same thing that's taking place down there. And those are the areas that we really got to focus on as we zero in. And Swansboro, I mean, you start naming them, Swansboro and Richlands, Jack, I mean, you just go right into them. Holly Ridge. Holly Ridge is growing, one of the fastest growing small towns in the nation.
Yeah.
And you really got to see it when you start looking first at that 35,000 foot level and make decisions of what is good for Onslow County. Because when you start looking at what's good for Onslow County, it's going to be good for you to municipalities.
Yep.
And then when you start talking with the municipalities and they start talking to you about helping them with some things, you've also got to remember that if it's good for a municipality, it's going to be good for Onslow County.
Yeah.
So at the end, you know, that old sports analogy, it's not about the name on the back of the jersey. It's about the name on the front of the jersey. Yeah. And the front of this jersey is Onslow County.
Yeah.
And we've got names on the back of 7 of them. And we take care of Richlands and Holly Ridge and Jacksonville and Swansboro. And then we take care of the of those larger unincorporated areas of Hubert and Sneads Ferry. We do it right, and we always see this as a team effort, even in disagreements. But understand that you are servants. Yeah. And it's not about what's good for you. It's what's good for this county.
Yeah.
I'm 100% of what's good for Southwest, community that I live in and grew up in. But we can't do something for Southwest that's negative for the rest of the county.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure what we're doing in every corner is good for the county as a whole.
Yeah.
And the 7 of us talk through things, work through things, and really work to prioritize and what is going to be the best.
Yeah. So the essence of time, we're going to cut to the last question, trying to keep everybody balanced and equitable. So looking at that camera, 60 seconds or less, or however, you know, take what you need. But why should Onslow County voters choose Tim Foster in the Republican primary on March 3rd?
You know, it's always a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
But I feel like Onslow County voters should support me simply because I have a proven record of service, leadership, and results. Onslow County is in the best financial position right now than it has ever been in the history of this county. We are in great shape. I've worked in our schools. I've served families across this county, and I've helped guide growth and protecting the taxpayer's dollar. We want to make sure we get everything we can for every dollar that we spend, the biggest bang for their buck, not for mine, but for theirs. My focus is simple. My focus is strong schools, safe communities, responsible growth, and economic opportunity for our families. So on March 3rd, get out and vote. I want you to vote, and I want you to vote for me, and I respectfully ask for your support so we can continue building Onslow County where families and businesses thrive. Onslow County is a great place to live, work, and raise a family and learn. So March 3rd, get out and vote. I appreciate your support as we continue to take care and serve the community of Onslow County.
Well, Tim, thank you for joining me today, man, on the inaugural show of Living Local, and for sharing where you stand on issues that matter most to the folks in Onslow County. Best of luck March 3rd.
I appreciate it.
And to our viewers, just like Tim said, get out and vote. Your community is counting on you. And your vote does make a difference. So with that said, Tim, thank you again.
Thank you, Steve.
Enjoy it.
Yes, sir.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the premiere episode of Living Local, Authentic Voices, Conversations That Matter. A special thank you to the 5 candidates who joined me and helped launch this show with genuine conversations about the future of our community. This is just the beginning. Each month, Living Local will feature the people and organizations making our community better. Business leaders, educators, nonprofit directors, and everyday citizens doing extraordinary things. You can find every episode on the Man Cave Media Network YouTube channel. Search Man Cave Media NC and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. Have a story, idea, or someone you think we should feature? Reach out to us at mancavemedianc@gmail.com. That's mancavemedianc@gmail.com. Or connect with us on Instagram or Facebook. I'm Steve Goodson. Thanks for being here from day one. Keep living local. We'll see you next time.
Living Local is made possible by Marine veteran Amy Goss with Guild Mortgage. Everyone deserves the American dream. Amy helps you achieve it.